Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, would you please call the roll?
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar.
Excused.
Baumgardner. Cook. Coram. Court. Crowder. Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Garcia.
Excused.
Gardner. Guzman. Hill. Holbert. John. Jones. Kagan. Gafalis. Kerr. Lambert. Lumberg. Marble. Martinez Humenic. Merrifield. Moreno. Neville. Priola. Scott. Smallwood. Sonnenberg. Tate. Todd. Williams. Zenzinger. Aguilar. Mr. President.
Here. With 34 present, 0 absent, 1 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Fields, would you please come and lead us in the pledge?
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and guests. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the journal, Senator Finberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the journal of Monday, April 9th, 2018 be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Committee reports.
April 9, 2018, the Committee on Business, Labor, Technology has had in consideration and had hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments to be placed in the consent calendar confirmed. Members of the State Electrical Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2020. Joseph Badaracco of Lakewood, Colorado, serves as journeyman electrician who is not an electrical contractor, reappointed. Eric Clark of Denver, Colorado, serves as representative of the public at large, appointed. For terms expiring July 1st, 2021, Richard Michael King of Larkspur, Colorado, serves as representative of electrical utilities, appointed. Gina Marie Cullen of Golden, Colorado, to serve as a master electrician who is not an electrical contractor, appointed. April 9th, 2018. The Committee on Business, Labor, Technology has had in consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments. Recommends the appointments to be placed on the consent calendar confirmed. Members of the State Plumbing Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2021. Glenn Ray Ratliff of Arvada, Colorado, a Democrat member or employee of a local government agency conducting plumbing inspections, appointed. Matthew Ray Waggy of Greeley, Colorado, a Republican and master plumber, reappointed. April 9, 2018, Committee of Business, Labor, and Technology, after consideration of merits, committee following Senate Bill 209, be referred to committee to hold a favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2018, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of merits, committee following House Bill 1264, be referred to committee to hold a favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2018, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of merits, committee following House Concurrent Resolution 1001, be referred to committee to hold a favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2018, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of merits, committee following House Bill 1257, referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 9, 2018, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of merits, committee following House Bill 1040, referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation. April 9, 2018, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration of merits, committee following Senate Bill 84, be postponed indefinitely. April 9, 2018, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs, after consideration of merits, committee following Senate Bill 220, be amended as follows: as amended, be referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation. April 9, 2018, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs, after consideration of merits, committee following House Bill 1268, be referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar.
Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Bill 232, 233, 234, 235, 236, and 237, Senate Concurrent Resolution 2, Senate Resolution 4, correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 43, correctly revised, House Bill 1253, correctly enrolled, Senate Bill 14, 151, and 188.
Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1020 by Representative Harrod and Senator Kagan and Gardner concerning civil forfeiture reform and in connection therewith changing the entity required to report on forfeitures, expanding the scope of forfeitures to be reported, establishing grant programs, changing the disbursement of net forfeiture proceeds, and making an appropriation.
State Veterans Military Affairs. Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by the good senator from Fort Collins.
The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator Kafalas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we'll proceed out of order. Senator Kafalas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, I would like to welcome the Family Resource Center Association, Family Center directors, staff, and families that the 29 Family Resource Centers serve in 46 counties throughout Colorado. As we discussed yesterday, the Family Centers serve over 30,000 families annually. They provide services tailored to the needs of the local community, ranging from early childhood education, adult education, health and wellness, child care assistance, workforce development. They work with families on goal setting around housing, employment, and child development using a two-generation evidence-based model. I just want to briefly touch on the family center that I know best, and that is La Familia, which is in Fort Collins. And La Familia offers accessible and affordable child care, as well as family support services and adult education. They serve over 600 families annually, partner with the City of Fort Collins, Larimer County, Colorado State University, and other organizations to provide services to enable families to achieve self-sufficiency. And again, these family resource centers are located throughout the state, 46 counties. There are folks here from the Resource Center in Summit County. There are people from the Valley Settlement Center, which represents Garfield, Pitkin, and Eagle counties. There are folks from Pueblo, and they collaborate with Catholic Charities of Pueblo. And then there are folks here from Fremont County Family Center. Colleagues, just want to be able to honor the good work of the Family Resource Centers. The association is here today. They have a lunch, I think, over the lunch hour. And just would you join me in welcoming them, please?
Thank you, Senator Kafalas. I'm going to.
Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1253.
House Bill 1253 by Representatives Lee and Harrod and Senator Gardner concerning implementation of recommendations of the Committee on Legal Services in connection with the legislative review of rules of state agencies.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1253, more commonly known as the Annual Rule Review Bill, on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, are there any no votes? With 34 aye, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1253 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Martinez-Humanic, Senator Hobart, Senator Tate, Senator Scott, Senator Court. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 43.
Senate Bill 43 by Senator Grantham and Representative Lundeen concerning the legal effects of the rejection by the Senate of an individual nominated by the governor for appointment to a state office have on the subsequent nomination or temporary appointment of the same individual to or holdover of the individual in the same state office.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 43 on third reading and final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 43. Are there any no votes? Senator Jones, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Fields, Senator Koufalas, Senator Guzman, Senator Fenberg, Senator Kerr, Senator Cort, Senator Donovan, Senator Kagan, Senator Moreno, Senator Aguilar, Senator Williams, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator John. With 18 aye, 16 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 43 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Marble, Senator Priola, Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Scott, Senator Neville, Senator Quorum, Senator Smallwood, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Lundberg, Senator Lambert, Senator Gardner, Senator Cook, Senator Hill. Please add the President. General Order, second reading of bills. Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for the purposes of General Order's second reading of bills.
Motion for the body is for the Senate to resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the General Order's second reading of bills calendar. Senator Smallwood will take the chair.
Committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 166?
Senate Bill 166 by Senator Corman, Representative Harrod, concerning changing the maximum jail sentence for certain crimes from 1 year to 364 days.
Senator Corman. Senator Corman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Senate Bill 166 and the committee report, and I would ask for a no vote on the committee report because there is a new amendment that is a strike below.
Is there any further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, all in favor of the Judiciary Committee report, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Noes have it. The committee report is lost. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read the title to Amendment 7?
Amendment L007, Senate Bill 166 by
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I think this is something that L007 is a strike below, and this is a very serious problem in the agricultural and construction community. And I think it's important that we address this situation. Unfortunately, I think the climate as it is, I think we need to turn this strike below to an interim study that we do over the summer and to address Legislative Intern Committee on Misdemeanor Sentencing and ask for your support. I think it's a conversation that we have to have. It's probably something that's going to take longer than we can do in the days that we have here, and so I want to bring all the stakeholders, everybody involved in, and actually solve this problem. I regret that I think we're a year late in solving it, but I think it's something that has to be done, so I ask for your support. I move L007.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment 7? Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This does need to be looked at. As you know, as we look at a one-year sentence for someone who gives a haircut without a license, that would fall under this. There are other issues, quite frankly, that maybe ought to be stricter penalties. But as we lump all this together and try and solve this problem on what actually is a crime worth coming hard on someone on, this indeed needs to be dealt with and looked at, and I think an interim committee is a proper approach. I applaud the senator from Montrose for coming to the conclusion that we do and need to look at this, and ask for your aye vote on the amendment.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to congratulate the sponsor for bringing this forward in a manner that I think is very workable. And I would also ask for an aye vote on this particular amendment L007. Thank you.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to briefly speak in favor of the amendment. As the senator from Montrose and I had discussed this, there are well over 100 misdemeanors that fall in this category. We had a sentencing reform interim committee last year that didn't really look in detail at this particular section of the law, but it deserves it. We need to methodically go through here and see if these sentences are appropriate, if city ordinances are appropriate to have year-long sentencing and so forth. A year-long sentence is a very weighty sentence. That's a long time in jail, and we need to make sure that we do this right, and I appreciate the fact that we're going to take a little bit longer look at this. So I'd ask for an aye vote on L007.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment 7? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Amendment 7. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment 7 is adopted. Senator Corum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And once again, I just renew my request for the passage of Senate Bill 166 as amended.
Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do urge an aye vote on forming the interim committee, but I do regret that we weren't able to pass the bill in its original form as it came out of the Judiciary Committee unanimously. I do think that it's a shame that we're doing this because through an interim committee when we could be simply lopping one day off sentences and saving our jails an enormous amount of money and saving our system an enormous amount of money, because there are various collateral consequences for the state that are triggered by a 365-day sentence that aren't triggered by a 364-day sentence. So I commend the senator for sponsoring this bill, and I do urge an aye vote on this move to the interim committee. But I do want to record our regret, as well as our thanks to Senator Corum for doing this, as well as just urging a lukewarm aye vote on the interim committee.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 166? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 166. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 166 passes. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
I move the committee rise and report.
Motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The body will rise and report.
Senate will come back to order. Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committees met, had one bill under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs lead reports had on consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, makes following recommendations on Senate Bill 166 as amended, passed on second read order and gross placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Motion for the body is the adoption of the report to the committee of the whole. Are there any no votes? 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused. Committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 166 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Consideration of resolutions. Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we lay over SR 18004 until Wednesday, April 11th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Resolution 4 till Wednesday, April 11. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that will lay over. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of the Senate Bill 187?
Senate Bill 187 by Senators Marble and Tate and Representative Arndt concerning transferring marijuana fibrous waste for the purpose of producing industrial fiber products.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 18-187 and that we adhere to the House amendments. We concur.
Concurrence? Okay. Is there any discussion? The motion is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 187. Are there any no votes on concurrence? Actually, I didn't ask you for an explanation of those amendments, Senator Marble.
Well, it's really quite technical. I'm not sure that anybody here can really get into it and understand what's going on. But they did change on page 4, lines 5 through 13, to an act subject to petition. That is what we are concurring.
I don't understand. Could you explain that again?
Thank you, Mr. President. I knew this was going to be a problem, and I did my best not to get into this. But I think if we can just pass over it and just say that we need to pass it to know what's in it.
So nothing to see here. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Mr. President, that is correct.
Okay. The motion is for the Senate to concur with Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator, I'm somewhat concerned about the comments that you made, saying that it was a little too difficult for us to understand. So I was wondering if you can help provide clarity to the amendments that we should be adhering to.
Okay.
Senator Marble.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I really thank my colleague for bringing that up. And if she could just get a little bit more to the point of which part of this she would want me to technically address.
Or not.
Or not. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd be happy to point out
Senator Fields.
areas in the bill that I need clarification on based on the amendments that were made in the House. Looks like you have a spreadsheet here.
Oh, we do. This is so technical.
Maybe that might help me.
Would you all like to go through the presiding officer before you start speaking? Okay. I'm just checking with you all. Or you can just have a conversation up there at the well. Who's next? Senator Marble or Senator Fields? Are you done? We could be here all morning.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is providing the clarity that I needed to Section 5, because there is a very lengthy spreadsheet here that talks about everything that's changed with this amendment. And so by reading it, just for my colleagues, if you'd like to know what it does, It's based on the distributor can claim a credit for taxes paid on tobacco products that are shipped or transported by a distributor to a
No.
Okay. No. Mr. President, I withdraw my concerns at this time. I need some more time to study this.
Thank you, Senator. There's still a motion on the floor for concurrence. Is there any further discussion? Are there any no votes on concurrence? With 34 ayes, there are noes or absent, one excused, that motion is adopted. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the readoption of Senate Bill 187. Thank you.
The motion is for the readoption of Senate Bill 187. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, there are noes or absent, one excused. Senate Bill 187 is readopted. Co-sponsors. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of Senate Bill 179?
Senate Bill 179 by Senators Hill and Williams and Representatives Hooten and Pabon concerning adjustments to total gross purchases for purposes of calculating the excise tax on tobacco products.
Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to lay over the consideration of House amendments to Senate Bill SB 18179 to Wednesday, April 11th.
The motion is to lay over the consideration of House amendments to Senate Bill 179 till April 11. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that will lay over. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of Senate Bill 154?
Senate Bill 154 by Senator Fields and Representative Salazar concerning a requirement for a local juvenile services planning committee to devise a plan to manage duly identified crossover youth.
Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 154.
Can you provide a brief explanation?
Sure, Mr. President. The House amendments are not substantive, but they added some language to include data sharing regarding collaborative partners as relates to juveniles. I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 154. Are there any no votes on concurrence? With 34 ayes, there are noes or absent, one excused. That motion is adopted. Senator Fields.
Mr. President, I move for the readoption of Senate Bill 154.
The motion is for the readoption of Senate Bill 154. Are there any no votes? Senator Crowder. Senator Marble. Senator Baumgardner. With 31 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 154 is readopted. Co-sponsors. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of Senate Bill 180?
Senate Bill 180 by Senator Gardner and Representatives Wist and Gray concerning the Colorado Uniform Trust Code.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 180.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you. Members, after some 14 years, the General Assembly finally, by a lot of stakeholder work for 14 years, is passing a version of the Uniform Trust Code. But it was so much work on the part of the bar that they wanted to call it the Colorado Trust Code, but the Uniform Law Commission wanted to call it the Uniform Trust Code. And so then there was a change in the bill so that it could be referred to as the Colorado Uniform Trust Code, but the title of the bill had continued to say the Colorado Trust Code. So over in the House, that wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to add in the title the word uniform, and that's what they did. And so that's why we're standing here. And so I move that we concur.
Is there any discussion? The motion is that the Senate concur to House amendments with House amendments to Senate Bill 180. Are there any further comments? Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to move that we don't let lawyers get so into the weeds on so many of these bills, because we could get a lot more done without them worrying so much over these technicalities, but okay.
And I'm sure those comments help speed things along as well. Are there any no votes? On concurrence, Senator Lambert. With 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, that motion is adopted. Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 180.
The motion is for the readoption of Senate Bill 180. Are there any no votes? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, Senator Lambert is a no vote. With 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 180 is readopted. Co-sponsors. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 146.
Senate Bill 146 by Senators Cafalas and Smallwood and Representatives Hayes and Singer concerning a requirement that freestanding emergency department inform a person who is seeking medical treatment about the health care options that are available to the person and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 146.
Please provide a brief explanation. Senator Cafalas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, if you look at the revised version of Senate Bill 146 concerning freestanding emergency departments, on page 9, you will see that 2 subparagraphs were added, Roman numeral 3 and 4, and basically this is adding to the disclosure form. Once there is a proper medical screening, this bill, in terms of consumer information, provides certain kinds of disclosure. This adds that a freestanding emergency department or a physician providing health care services, it indicates that they may not be in network. Roman numeral 4 basically states that, the physician could bill separately than the facility. Those are the changes on page 9. Go ahead, sir.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 10, there's also additional language related to the disclosure of the pricing. Again, this happens after a person's been screened for emergency condition, so it added a sentence in there that said that the facility fees that they're going to disclose can either be the maximum facility fee that the freestanding emergency department charges or the range of minimum to maximum, which I think is good clarification. At the bottom of page 10, the House wanted to, I guess, reaffirm the fact that even though a patient receives a notice about charges and fees and in-network and out-of-network, that does not waive a covered person's protection under Section 1716-7043B, which is the basically the law that says if a person is going to an emergency room for emergency treatment, that they have to be treated at the in-network level if it is a life or limb-threatening emergency under non-ERISA plans.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, on page 11 of the bill, in subsection 7, language was added regarding the rules that the State Board of Health may adopt, and these rules would include those rules necessary to ensure that freestanding emergency departments are complying in good faith with some of the provisions, with the intent of this section and the transparency and the disclosure requirements. That is the change on page 11. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? The motion is that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 146. Are there any no votes on concurrence? With 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, that motion is adopted. Senator Cafalas.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move for the readoption of Senate Bill 146 as amended.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know this is the final stage for this bill, and I'm not going to argue against the bill. Actually, I like the bill. I'm going to be voting for the bill. But I want to make it clear one thing about what the bill does. It does as much as we can, but not enough that should be done, unfortunately. I ran across this in a personal experience with a family member just this last week, where if you go to a freestanding emergency clinic and you ask them, does my insurance cover this? Their answer is, we can't tell you. And unfortunately, this bill won't fix that. The family member of mine that actually went decided, okay, that if that's the case, I'm not going to seek any treatment here, which is absurd. So we need to do more, but let's do this much right now. Thank you. Vote yes.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not to belabor the point, but I do think it's worth thanking the good senator from Berthoud on that observation. The senator from Fort Collins and I had a number of conversations. Senator from Denver was included in that with the regional HHS director, and it's very clear where federal law really steps in to state what, in their opinion, can and cannot be disclosed before a screening is performed to rule out an emergency condition. And the senator from Fort Collins and I tried as best we could to make sure that we're giving as much information to patients as we possibly can without being in what the director told us was a violation of the federal EMTALA laws. So although I appreciate it, I want to make sure my colleagues know that we were aware of that, did the best we could to be as aggressive as we can to benefit the consumers.
Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I'll probably vote for this today, but I think it's the issue for me on this whole issue on the freestanding is we're picking winners and losers in a healthcare situation that the problem is so much vaster. So I think it's a slippery slope when we start picking those winners and losers within an industry that has a lot of problems. So you know, this is a difficult one for me because I believe in you know, I'm in the mode of expanding healthcare instead of restricting it. So I just think we need to be cautious on this. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? The motion is for the readoption of Senate Bill 146. Are there any no votes? Senator Marble, Senator Crowder, Senator Baumgardner. With 31 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, Senate Bill 146 is readopted. Co-sponsors. Consideration of House adherence. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of House Bill 1237?
House Bill 1237, Representative Kraft, Van Winkle, and Senator Neville, concerning the continuation of the requirements regarding the preparation of a cost-benefit analysis as administered by the Department of Regulatory Agencies in connection with implementing the recommendations contained in the 2017 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies and making an appropriation.
Oh, Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I move that we recede from the Senate position on House Bill 1237.
Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, it pains me that the boneyard of good ideas has actually taken another good idea with them, also known as the House. And I'd like to explain what we did. In the Senate, we actually took the cost-benefit analysis process, which is very well supported by business, and actually strengthened it with a good idea for a mandatory or a required cost-benefit analysis by the Office of Budget and Planning that would be utilized in the case of any ideas or any new regulations which would possibly trigger an over $10 million cost over 5 years on businesses, large or small. This was supported by Casey and NFIB and other business organizations. We thought that this was a very good idea. We had a $30,000 fiscal note on it, which was very reasonable. And let me explain a little bit of why it's needed. We had 2,272 rules submitted for review. This is over a several year from 11-12 through 15-16. 21 rules were actually provided cost-benefit analysis. Colleagues, that's less than 1%. So we have a cost-benefit analysis system, but it's not working very well. So we passed with bipartisan support out of this chamber something that would actually strengthen that and something that would be beneficial for all business and, frankly, I think beneficial for the state of Colorado and the governor's office, the focus on, as opposed to trying to fix regulatory problems after they happen, we had a unique idea that would actually possibly identify them on the front side and allow for OSPB to come back with a cost-benefit analysis by economists, imagine that, who actually are qualified to do a cost-benefit analysis, and also identify several ideas along with that that might lessen the regulatory burden. But that didn't happen. So the question is, do we throw both babies out with the bathwater, or do we recede from our position and at least maintain the cost-benefit analysis and come back in another day? So, colleagues, I urge to recede from that position, and thank you for your time.
The motion is for the Senate to recede from its position on House Bill 1237. Are there any no votes? Senator Jones. With 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, the Senate recedes from its position on House Bill 1237.
Do we have to make a motion?
All right, Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt the House version of 1237.
Motion is for readoption of House Bill 1237. All those in favor say aye. No. Are there any no votes? Senator Jones, with 33 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, House Bill 1237 is readopted. Co-sponsors. Senator Marble. Senator Tate. Oh, yes. Colleagues, would you please welcome our former colleague, the Honorable Senator Keith King. The House has requested a conference committee on House Bill 1322, sponsored in the Senate by Senator Lambert. The President appoints 2 majority members and Minority Leader appoints 1 member. Appoint Senator Lambert chair and Senator Lundberg and Senator Moreno. House has also requested a conference committee on House Bill 1329, sponsored by Senator Moreno. Lambert is appointed as chair, Lundberg and Moreno. The House has requested a conference committee on House Bill 1338. Lambert is appointed as chair, Lundberg and Moreno. And conference committee has also been requested on 1340, and Senator Lambert is appointed as chair, along with Senators Lundberg and Moreno. Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate vote to go beyond the scope of differences between the House and Senate on House Bill 1322.
The motion is to allow the conference committee to go beyond the scope of differences on House Bill 1322. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate allow the conference committee on 1340 to go beyond the scope of differences between the House and Senate.
The motion is for the Senate to allow the conference committee to go beyond the scope of differences between the House and Senate on House Bill 1340. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Permission is granted. Announcements. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Transportation has changed rooms. We will be meeting in room 354 instead of 352, and we are going to be hearing House Bill 1275 first.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Appropriations Committee, there is a meeting scheduled, and it is in your calendar for tomorrow morning. And in addition to the bills that are listed, we will be adding House Bill 1042.
Senator Kafalis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I believe we have students from Liberty Common High School that are up in the gallery. And so if you could please join me in recognizing the students from the graduating class of 2018 from Liberty Common High School. These dedicated, do I have it right? Are you guys from Liberty? Okay, good.
They're all around here.
Over there too? Okay, there we go. These dedicated students are graduating from one of the top schools in the state, a school with high academic rigor and high expectations for student character, including modeling virtue and character at school and while engaging in the community. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming the students.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, colleagues, I'm holding an Avs jersey here, which probably seems like really good news. And so what I'm about to say actually has some good news to it, also some sobering aspects to it. So as I'm sure you all know, the Colorado Avalanche defeated the St. Louis Blues, which happens to be my chief of staff's favorite hockey team. They defeated them on Saturday to go to the playoffs for the first time in 4 years, and making sure that the Blues did not go to the playoffs for the first time in several years. So that is certainly our good news. On Thursday night, the Avs will play their first playoff game in a while, and so that's the good news part of this. Also on Thursday, which is the day hopefully you'll all be wearing your Avalanche gear, Thursday, we're going to remember the Humboldt hockey team. If you remember last week, on their bus, and this is up in Canada, their bus was T-boned by a semi-truck, and I believe it's somewhere around 13 members of the hockey team lost their lives. Colorado connection here, actually, that's the same junior hockey team that Joe Sakic used to play on, and he was actually on a bus when they were hit and had an accident, and some of the members lost their lives when he was playing for them. So going to ask, and certainly up to the majority leader and the president, if they would allow a certain amount of flexibility around the dress code on Thursday to wear any hockey jersey that you have. I don't think it would be appropriate to wear the Nashville hockey jersey. But any other hockey jersey of any level to commemorate the Humboldt team and their losses, and also to celebrate the Avalanche going to the playoffs. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. And maybe to just dial that in a little bit more, there will be no Red Wings jerseys in this chamber. All right? Yeah, okay. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, today is Equal Pay Day, which is a symbolic day for those who advocate the need to shrink and close the pay gap. And what Equal Pay Day means, it represents that women across the country and the nation earn less than a man the year before. So it usually falls on a Tuesday. So today shows how long it takes for a woman to earn the same amount as a man. Basically, it ends up being about 20% of her salary. And when women aren't paid at the equal pay rate, that has an impact on their family, it has an impact on our economy, and just imagine what you can do with 20% more of your paycheck. 20% over the course of years could mean that you could purchase that home that you've been saving for. 20% that you did not get could mean that maybe you could pay for your child to go to college. Paycheck fairness and equal pay is really important, and today gives us an opportunity to raise some awareness about how important it is that we shrink that gap. So what's happening today at this Capitol and around our nation is that people are lending voice to this cause, the cause to make sure that women are paid fairly. Just to share some statistics with you, an Asian woman earns 81 cents for every dollar earned by an Asian man. A black woman earns 82 cents for every dollar earned by a black man, and a Hispanic woman earns 88 cents for every dollar earned by a Hispanic man, and a white non-Hispanic woman earns 75 cents for every dollar earned by a white non-Hispanic man. To go further in reference to the impact this paycheck inequity causes, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data for 2015 show that 5 occupations are habitually underpaying women. These occupations are bookkeeping, accounting, auditing clerks, general office clerk, data entry keys. It also mentions police and sheriff patrol officers. Women are paid less. So members, with all that in mind, I just urge you to understand that the pay equity issue is a serious issue in our country, and we need to shrink that gap. So please, join me in supporting Pay Equity Day.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I, too, support Equal Pay Day. I think we've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. And I have known people that have taken time off from their careers to start and raise a family, and then have gone back into the workforce, still with the same skill set, still maybe doing some of the work from home, but not being paid when they got back into the workforce the same amount that they were making when they left to have a family. So while I think we're making inroads, we need to continue to encourage our employers to take a look and make sure that everybody is getting equal pay for the work that they do.
Senator Martinez-Humenick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues and whoever might be interested, the local government committee is changing rooms. We will be in 352 today instead of 354.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. The conference committees on House Bill 1322, 1329, 1338, and 1340 will be scheduled sometime after adjournment of both houses tomorrow, April 11th.
Any further announcements? Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we adjourn until 10 a.m. I repeat, 10 a.m. Let's see, that is Wednesday, the 11th. The reason for that is there's an executive committee meeting at 9 a.m. So therefore, we will begin at 10 a.m. So what do you want to do?
Let's take it till,
I'm not going to be here. 9:30. We'll take care of it.
Well, they have an executive committee meeting at 9.
Yeah. So we're going to start here at 10. If you want to start later.
You want me to withdraw that?
Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I withdraw my motion to adjourn.
Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appropriations, I have some bad news, and that is we'll have to meet at 9:30 tomorrow rather than 8:35. No, we'll just make it 9:30. I'm going to be strict here. 9:30 tomorrow morning for the appropriations meeting. Thank you very much.
Assistant Majority Leader Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I renew my motion to adjourn until 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 11th of April.
The motion is for the Senate to adjourn till 10 a.m. Wednesday, April 11th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The aye has it, and we will stand in adjournment.